Says I'm live. It's a few minutes before my premiere was to start. I'm going to share a true story, life lessons that I learned along the way on my way home. I grew up very, very poor, and I struggled. My parents were not really good parents, and I was used all the time as hi, raging weather. Thank you for showing up. And I want to share about pretty is as pretty does. There's been a lot of ugliness taking place around the world where it looks like we're going to war. And they want to shut our. Hi, Liza. Ruby, hi. Glad you could come. And Liza, I'm going to make you a ranch. Liza was the girl that she was our first exchange student. I'm going to add you as a moderator. If you see somebody saying any naughty words, I don't want any filthiness or any ugliness. So, and you can kick them out. But you saw my mask that I had on, and well, that's okay, Raging. You're doing great. I want you to go over to Raging Weather. He is young and he's starting out, and he has a wonderful, wonderful channel about weather and cyclones and basically weather. Doing a good job, Raging Weather. And I'm glad you are on another channel, David Schlotthauer. That was pretty good. We had snow today, which is weird. We have big snowflakes coming down. But I know many of you know that I'm a Christian, and there's a Bible story where these kids were making fun of this man. And Ruby, do you know which one I'm talking about? And Liza, which story I'm talking about and where it is in the Bible? Anyway, I forget, what was there, like 40 kids? They were making fun of this bald-headed man, and they were just being mean to him. And I don't believe that God takes somebody and kills them and punishes them, but he takes away his protection. And this is why I believe that Barry Morphew will be convicted. He's using God. He's blaspheming God and to lie and get away with what he did to his wife. He murdered his wife there in Colorado, allegedly. But the stakes are stacking up pretty close to that. He did it. Anyway, when I was young, I was in grade school, and there was a woman, a young lady, and she was very wealthy, what I thought wealthy. They had a 1,200 square foot house up on a hill on an acre. Her dad was a medical tech, and he owned a med tech. So, and then she used to shop at the carousel and wear new clothing and everything. And she was the class beautiful person, so-called beautiful. And we had just moved up to Grass Valley to the little Adventist. I was going to the Adventist school. Adventists all put their kids in Adventist school, no matter what your economic system is or situation is. So I was put in Pine Hills Adventist Academy in Grass Valley, Nevada City, California. And we went to a church in Grass Valley, the Adventist church, and Elder Theodore Venden was our pastor. And we were so poor that we didn't even have food half the time. Is my sound coming out all right? Put a 1 if you think my sound is okay. So they invited us to the church Dorcas, where we could go and get, thank you, Ruby, and get clothing. And I didn't think anything of it. I was in the 6th, 7th grade. Thank you, Liza. And Larry and I are praying for you. How you doing, Liza? And so I picked out a couple of things, and there were 2 skirts, and they were brand new. And one had a fall theme. It was of the Nantucket Bay and some sailing ships. And the other one had red, white, and blue. And I thought they were beautiful, and they were brand new. Of course, you know, being in the 6th or 7th grade, I wasn't into fashion. And so I wore that to school. And the gal goes, the rich gal, I won't say her name, PR. And she goes, oh, look at Cheryl. She's got, Zelda Zell, I'm Cheryl. She's got she's wearing those 2 skirts that my aunt gave to the Dorcas. Oh my goodness. Hello, Misty. Come on, Misty. And she says, oh, she got it from the church Dorcas. And I was just terribly embarrassed. Larry? And she made me cry. I was so sad and embarrassed that she had told everybody that I had this used skirts that her aunt had given to the church Dorcas. And she was always proud of the girls would shop at the, I think it was called the Carousel there in Grass Valley. And my parents would just never had the money. My mom was in nurses training. She lived 110 miles away. Come here, Misty. Misty. That's Paul's cat. Paul moved to Florida. So here, Misty. So I was just hurt to the core, tears, just absolutely heartbroken that she would make fun of me and tell everybody that I'd gotten that outfit from the church Dorcas. And she used to make fun of me all the time, to the point there were times I would run off into the woods and have panic attacks. And nobody knew that I was having trouble, that had been abused as a child. I mean, I'd been severely abused. And nobody knew the trouble that I was going through. Larry, can you plug this in for me? This in is not plugged in. I need some power to that. Do you know where that story is about where those kids made fun of that old man in the Bible? Is it Elijah? Elijah. Bald head. He had a bald head. How many kids were there? There were like 35 kids. Anyway, they were throwing rocks and making fun of that old man. And God pulled away his protection from them. Not that God created this horrible thing, but he couldn't protect them because they were being evil. They were being mean. And we do the same thing. When we pull away from God, he can't protect us. When we do evil and we're nasty and we hurt others, people look at it as karma, but it's not really karma. It's you remove God's protection because you choose to do evil and to hurt others. And I had a rough time. I went to a different school every year of my childhood, and it was just really hard to make friends when you're at a new school and always having to make. We moved every couple of months, and it was every year we moved to a new house, new school, and my grades suffered. I failed, and I was having a hard time. I got D's and F's, and teacher would ask me, "You want to tell us what you're dreaming about?" And there were a couple of times I went hungry. I'm telling you all this for a reason. Yeah, I did go through a lot. And I didn't have food half the time. And the teacher had some almonds on his desk. And his name was Bryce Hickerson. And I used to be the room janitor, and then I'd have to clean the bathrooms to help with some of my school bill. And I got the lunches that the kids threw away, and that's how I would eat. And then Mr. Hickerson had the almonds on his desk, so I took a few of them. Now, that was wrong of me to steal them, but they were just sitting there out in the open, like a pile of nuts, and I wanted some, so I took a few, and he caught me, and he called me a thief. And then I had trouble with the homework. I had no one to help me, and I couldn't do math, and we were doing algebra, and I started to figure out the algebra problems on my own. And I came to the right conclusion, but I didn't do it the way that he taught me. And he says, show me how you did this, how you came to this conclusion. So I showed him, and I wrote it all out. And he goes, well, I don't know where you learned that. Either you're Einstein or you're an idiot. And we know you're not Einstein, so you must be, ha, ha, ha. The whole class heard me. So they used to call me Einstein or idiot. And there were times I wanted to end my life. And I used to pray. I begged God. I says, my mom was gone. She'd be gone for a week or two. She'd be home on weekends. My sisters lived with the Evans, and I was left alone at the house, this dumpy place in Grass Valley. And Bob, my father, my sperm donor, would be gone for days at a time. And he didn't drink, but he gambled. He had a serious gambling problem. So I was left alone in this old house day after day after day. And I didn't have any friends. There was no phone, no TV, no neighbors. I wanted to play the piano, and I begged my mom for a piano. She said, well, you can't even pass 5th grade. What makes you think you're going to play the piano? And I begged, and she says, no, you're not smart enough to learn the piano. So that was one of my dreams that I never got to. Imagine if I would have had a piano and lessons back then when I was 6th and 7th grade. So anyway, I had the kids make fun of me, and that one girl just taunted me something horrible. There were only 2 other girls that were my age, Robin and Mary. Now, I met up with Robin through Facebook, and she's traveled around the world with her 6th or 7th or 8th husbands. She's real happy. She invited me to come to Sedona. She said she's a energy healing and a shaman. And the other girl had serious drinking and alcohol problems. So that's kind of sad that Mary and Robin both didn't have good lives. And Craig Hickerson, Mr. Hickerson's son, was my age. And he sat with me one time. He says, Cheryl, I'm sorry. I'll be your friend. And I know that these people are making fun of you and being mean, and you don't deserve it. So I had an advocate, and that was with Craig. And Craig Hickerson was head of Ellen G. White Estate Foundation. He was a very, very good historian. I guess he was great grandson or something of Ellen White. And we went to Ellen White's house there in Elms Haven, California. And wow, that was an experience. So I'll get back to this, my story about pretty is as pretty does. And these people that act nasty. This person that made fun of me, I found her on Facebook a couple of years ago, and she was really proud of her double wide mobile home and her 17 cats. Yikes. Wow. Not that I'm better because I don't live in a mobile home, because I would have gladly lived in a mobile home. I'd live in a tent on this property because we love our view. But it's kind of funny how things kind of turned out that way, that, she made fun of me because I was so poor. But that doesn't make me a good person, and it doesn't make her a bad person. It's just that teenagers are very, very cruel. And these kids with I think it was Elijah the prophet. He was bald-headed prophet. And they made fun of him and they threw rocks at him. And because they had clearly left God's protection because they were being cruel to the prophet. Was a bear? What happened, Larry? A bear came, and it didn't end well because that bear attacked most of those kids. So I don't know. So you have to be careful when you do something and hurt somebody on purpose, because it doesn't always end out well. And it's not karma. Karma is removing God's protection. And I don't believe could you bring my drink there? Had a orange drink. Thank you, honey. My husband's not feeling well. He's lost so much weight. He's lost 40 pounds since he had the vaccine. So I don't know if it's the vaccine that did it or what. I don't know. He's been very stressed. I don't know who did it. Oh, I thought it was over there, maybe by the TV. But anyway, I'll tell you about pretty is as pretty does. I took my grandkids to the Oregon Zoo, and it was a nice summer day, and little Madison was in her little pram. She was about 2 years old, and Cameron was about 6. Her brother Cameron was about 6 years old. And we'd gotten some popcorn, and there was a beautiful, beautiful peacock following us. And then it would display all its beautiful feathers. And everybody was taking pictures of this beautiful, beautiful peacock, saying, "Oh, what a beautiful bird. Aren't their feathers beautiful?" That's a peacock. That's a real peacock feather. When I tell the story to kids at church, I hand them out because I have, and there's albino peacocks that are pure white. They're beautiful. I'd like to have some albino feathers, but they're a little bit too expensive, probably $5 a piece. I used to get these in Florida, in the Florida Keys. So then we went to around the zoo, And my grandson kept throwing the popcorn on the ground, and the peacock was eating it, and his feathers were dragging about 6 feet out. And then ever so often, he'd put all his feathers out. Beautiful, beautiful display of feathers. And it was like 10 feet wide of all this feathers just spread out. And everybody was going, oh, what a beautiful bird. You know, this bird was just so proud. You know, he was just beautiful because he was beautiful. And everybody thought, wow, what an awesome bird. Oh, it's really late. You have to go to sleep. All right, you can save this. I'll love you. Bye, Liza. Liza's on. Larry wrote you an email. Did you get your email? Anyway, we love you, Liza. We're trying to get her to move back to Oregon, but it's too cold for her. So we went around the elephant's cage and the monkeys, and this bird really followed us because Cameron was just tossing the popcorn right and left. And then I got him another popcorn, and he was feeding, and he'd give his little sister a few pieces of popcorn. And then we went to the bat cave, and that was almost to the end. Hi, critters. And then we went through the bats thing, and that peacock kept following us and he would stick out his feathers and show everybody how beautiful he was. So pretty. And then he would eat some more popcorn. And people were taking pictures of this peacock. I bet you we have a lot of pictures of us there at the Oregon Zoo with this peacock because he really was focused on us and my grandson because of the peacock, because of the popcorn. So we had finished the bat cage and we were going up towards the exit. And it was getting later in the day, about 3 o'clock. My granddaughter and Cameron were getting tired, and the popcorn was ready to run out. And my grandson, Cameron, he took his last few pieces of popcorn. Thank you, sweetie. And he threw them on the ground there. And all of a sudden, a gust of wind blew the popcorn under Madison's pram, her stroller. So the peacock couldn't get to the popcorn. And Maddie's sitting there looking at the peacock. And Cameron, he reaches down and he thought, oh, I'll help the peacock because that peacock is so beautiful. And everybody's enjoying the beautiful peacock feathers. We should have plucked a few of his feathers. And this peacock had been, hi, Buckle Bunny. Hey, we had from Colorado and Bat Cave in North Carolina. I thought you said Bat Cave. And we went into the bat section. Misty, kitty, kitty, kitty. So when Cameron bent down, he was being kind. He was doing a kind thing, and that was to push the popcorn out from under the stroller where the peacock could get the popcorn. And that was the last of the popcorn. Guess what the peacock did? He was beautiful, yes, but he behaved in the most horrible way. He jumped on top of my grandson, attacked him, scratched his head, dug his claws into Cameron's head and back, and really hurt Cameron. And the police had to be called, the security, the guards, and everybody. And they came and they had to capture that beautiful peacock. But he was pretty, yes, but he didn't act pretty. He behaved ugly. And you know what happened to that peacock? He was taken away, and he never got to stay in the zoo ever again because he had a bad attitude. And I see the same with other people. When they act nasty, when they think they are so pretty, and they get on YouTube and they brag about how beautiful they are, or they have natural beauty, or another YouTube creator is older. I'm 70 years old, and I don't feel I have natural beauty, but I'm lucky because I don't have wrinkles like a lot of people my grandpa my age. I got gray hair though, and my hair is falling out. But if I don't act pretty and I don't act nice, who wants to be around me? Nobody wants to be around somebody that's always angry, full of rage. And if it's not one person, it's another. If it's not that one, it's a different one. It's a constant pattern with some people where they are just always angry, always upset, and full of rage and full of hatred. And I see this time and time again, even in church. And I had a woman who didn't like me at all. And my husband and I wanted to give and do our part. And they were building a church, a local church. And so I decided that I would help out with the feeding the crew. So I would take sandwiches and lasagna and things like that. And this one woman didn't like that because she was very wealthy. We're not wealthy like they are. I mean, these are millionaires. And yeah, peacocks do attack. It attacked my grandson. He had scratches on his head, bloody. They drew blood. He had claws. And so that peacock wasn't pretty anymore. And a lot of people saw what happened. And my grandson's terrified of peacocks now. But back to my story. Where was I? Pretty is as pretty does for sure. That's for sure. Hi, but Bink, come here. Come here. This is Bugsy. Boggers. Boggers. Look at his beautiful blue eyes. His pretty blue eyes. Anyway, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, so I was taking food to the church on Sundays and helping, and my husband wanted to do the electrical, and they were just starting to build this church. And this woman took a disliking to me because I would take away some of her shine, I guess. I don't know. And I have Crohn's disease, and I had an artervenous malformation, which is like an aneurysm, and it bled. And I had 60 units of blood, and I was always severely anemic and passing out, and I just had a horrible time. But I would still try to do my best, whatever I could, in helping with church and stuff. And this woman she was a specialist at a mental facility, and she was a physician's assistant. And she just was always giving me a dirty look. And I thought, I don't know. I never did anything to her. I don't know why. And this is just one of many stories like this, and it's shocking. And I'm not saying I like what happened, but I was in the hospital for 21 days because of my artervenous malformation and my Crohn's disease. I had 2 bowel resections. They took out about a third or fourth of my small intestines. So I was very, very sick. And being in the hospital 21 days, that's quite a long time. And I lost 45 pounds. And I was weak as a kitten when I got out of the hospital. I could barely stand up and barely walk. And I was shaky because I was still taking a lot of steroids. And you take steroids and you're like, it's like having 50 cups of coffee every 2 hours. And I hated that feeling. And Larry says, well, they're having an informational, they want me to teach there at that new church about intelligent design. My husband likes to teach. And he says, you want to go with me? I'm going to sign up. And I says, okay. And I hadn't been out of the house and I'd just been out of the hospital for a week. And so I said, okay, I'll go. So I walked in, and there was that woman sitting at the table with some papers in front of her. She wanted people to sign up to teach different classes, and she waved me over. She goes, and I thought, oh, she's going to be nice to me. Wow, that's different. And so, look at Buggers. He is such a sweetheart. He's a ragdoll. And he's a distant cousin relative to Misty. Mr. Misty. So I have two ragdolls, and I tell you what, the fur flies around here. So then I walked over, and she saw that I, could barely walk, and I was shaking. And she goes, oh, you're out of the hospital. I said, yeah. She goes, what was your diagnosis? I said, oh, I had Crohn's disease. Oh, hello, Mr. Misty. Here's Mr. Misty. They're BFFs. Misty is Paul's cat. Paul moved to Florida, and he couldn't take Misty, so now we have Misty. Paul's dementia is pretty bad, got declining. We miss him. Oh, your battery's dead. Anyway, so she had several women sitting beside her, and they were kind of whispering and kind of acting. Felix, come here. Felix is getting jealous. Come here, Felix. So, oh, you were such a crybaby. This is Felix. Felix, the cat. What? You're such a crybaby. Felix. He's 13 years old. He chose me one day. Went down to get some birdseed down at the farm store, and he followed me all over, and I had to take him home with me. So anyway, I said, oh, I have Crohn's disease. She goes, no, not that diagnosis. What was your mental diagnosis? And I said, I don't have a mental diagnosis. Now, I'm not trying to say that people that have mental illness are bad. I have family members who struggle with mental illness, bipolar and schizophrenia and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to say that they're bad. What I'm saying that I was never I've never been diagnosed with any type of mental illness. But this woman was a specialist in mental illness, and she was making fun of me, and her little cronies were laughing at me. Now this was, let's see, my surgery was in mid-October, and so this was about the end of October, 1st of November, and they all laughed. And she says, well, you're obviously on some kind of psych meds because you're shaking. And that's what they do to you. And I said, no, I'm not on psych meds. Oh, really? I thought you had a mental breakdown. I said, no, I didn't have a mental breakdown. Yeah, I feel like I'm going to have a breakdown because of my pain and my Crohn's disease and constantly being sick and diarrhea and always not feeling unwell all the time. And isn't Bugsy sweet? Bugsy has a girlfriend, is Jewels of Thought, her cat Peaches. Yeah, her little kitty Peaches is a Persian, peach-colored Persian. And Bugsy keeps trying to send subliminal messages. You think of Peaches? What's Peaches? You want to lick me, Peaches? You want to lick Peaches? Oh, you wanted to kiss Peaches. Anyway, this is a typical ragdoll pose. They're always sitting like that. Ragdolls all sit like Buddhas, little Buddha. He's my Buddha boy. So this woman was making fun of me and grilling me one side up the other about whether I was taking some kind of Thorazine. I remember when I worked at the hospital, they called me the lithium lady because I'd go in the psych ward at 8 o'clock and draw lithium levels. And I knew these people would shake and had a hard time, but I would never make fun of them or treat them. I mean, if the things they did was funny. There was more Jesus Christ in the psych ward than in any church I've ever seen. But anyway, I was so embarrassed. And I was so hurt when she said that. I said, no, I was sick. I had 2 bowel resections. I had an aneurysm. She should have felt sorry for me, not make fun of me. And I left. I turned around and I went to the car and I sat in the car and I sobbed my heart out for a good hour. Finally, Larry came out. It was getting towards dark. And he says, what's the matter? And I told him what this person had said. And he said, oh, Cheryl, I'm so sorry. And he says, you know what? If that's the kind of attitude they have there, I'm not going to teach. And my husband was very, very good. He had a huge following. He'd have standing room only. And he'd do these seminars back to back. And people just absolutely loved listening to Larry teach his intelligent design series. And he's slowed down. See what I mean about that ragdoll pose? Buggers. So I told my husband, I'm going to go to the church board and I'm going to tell him what she said and how she embarrassed me and how mean she was. Larry said, don't do that. Let go and let God. Oh, she's a horrible person. Look what she did. She embarrassed me. She made me cry. She didn't feel sorry for me. And she just was so mean and cruel. Why did she have to do that? What a cruel witch. And she was a godly woman. And they donated probably a couple of $1 million to that church and building. I'm not really, but what good is it if she's going to be a horrible person and there's no blessing in that church? And I told Larry, I says, I want to go to the church board and tell them what she said and just let her know that she's wrong. I'm not crazy. I suffered for a long time. Ruby used to help me. Ruby was there. She saw all the times that I laid in bed and I couldn't even take a shower. I couldn't even wash my hair. I couldn't even change my clothes. I was so tired. I was so ill. And I suffered for several years. I have Ehlers-Danlos, which is a rare genetic disease, and it destroys your joints. And they found out that's why all the surgeries that I've ever had have gone wrong. So that's very painful. Anyway, this was towards the middle of, or the end of November, and we decided to go to a different church and not go there. And Larry says, if she's going to be that way, because she had her little cronies always making fun of people and being mean. And I know she had a nasty reputation. Ruby, you know who I'm talking about. So I had to let it go. Because if I went to the church board, they just look at me as being stupid. Who cares? You got your feelings hurt. Maybe you are crazy. Maybe she's right because she's a physician's assistant, specializes in mental illness. And I was shaking because I was taking prednisone, a lot of steroids, and I was weak, and I'd had blood transfusion after blood transfusion. It was just horrible. My body had been through so much. And I had to let it go, even though it hurt me. And I shed a lot of tears. And it was wrong of me because I prayed that bad things would happen. Maybe she'd slip and fall and break her butt or have her hair cut off by some crazy person. Um, anyway, she had hurt me. I was an innocent person. I was one of God's weak little lambs, and she was a wolf who went after. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect person. I was an innocent lamb. I was weak. I was a weak little lamb, and I know the Lord loves me, and He saved my life because the way that my aneurysm was found, there's I'll link the story here with Dr. Mackett, who discovered the AVM. If I didn't have a different doctor, I'd be dead because he discovered it accidentally, because he's a very gifted and very smart surgeon who used to teach surgery down Loma Linda, and he came up to Oregon to retire, and I happened to have him for a surgeon, and that's what saved my life. So I've been through a lot, and I try hard to be good to people and do good and give flowers and take things to people that are suffering, because I suffered my whole life, and I know what it's like to be extremely poor. And we're not poor now, but that doesn't make me a good person. Having a beautiful home and a beautiful motor home and view and no debt, that does not make me a good person. What makes me a good person is my being kind, the way I treat others, and the way my beauty, my inner beauty comes out, not my outer beauty, like that peacock that attacked my grandson. It was a horrible animal. Everybody thought he was beautiful, but he misbehaved. Then Christmas Day comes along. I'm still angry at this person. I know I needed to forgive, and I still have a hard time forgiving because she's dead. Her son took a shotgun and ended her life on Christmas Day. Her son struggled with mental illness. He's now in the state mental prison for the rest of his life. Now, did God kill her? Was that karma? What she did to herself was take away God's protection and God's blessing, because she purposely hurt another. And when we purposely hurt others and say mean, horrible things, that they're on the sauce, or they got wrinkle fillers, or they wear dentures. I don't wear dentures. These are mine. I paid $65,000 for them. And I'm not done yet. But that doesn't mean I'm a good person. What means being a good person is the way you help others, the way you love others, and when you love one another's. Hi, Nancy Drew and Brooke Z, Buckle Bunny. Anybody have a channel? You're welcome to post your channel. Angela Critters has a channel. Angela, you want to post your link to your channel? Brooke Z, do you have yeah, the bullies who gave a grown-up but have never matured. Yeah, it's just the bullying that's going on is just really sad. And there's you know what an ambigram is? Larry, where's those pieces of that fabric that has that true, Larry? That piece of material that has that.
I don't know.
Yeah, if I had time, I'd play that Love One Another on the piano. That's a beautiful song. It's a LDS song, and it's Love One Another. Um, and that's what the Lord wants us to do is, in, or God or whoever you is your higher power, is to love another person because you don't know what they're going through. And because you're pretty or you have a nice house or a beautiful kitchen or whatever does not make you a good person. It's what you have on the inside. The beauty inside is what people see. And when you're not pretty and you're sweet on the inside, people gravitate to that. I know somebody that is just as ugly as can be, but I love her to death. She is precious. And I really like her. She's one of my dear friends. So I would urge you to behave not like that peacock who was pretty, but he did nasty things. But be beautiful on the inside. Don't slander others. Just stop the crap. Oh, it's a real turnoff. And if these people could only realize how it makes them look, and they are harming others, innocent others, somebody who's doing good. I know somebody that does a lot of good for children who have disabilities. My friend Jules, and I see some horrible things that have been happening to her. And she's a wonderful doctor. She's a very, very smart woman, and her name is Jules of Thought. You might want to check her out. But I see some horrible things going on, and it's not right. And when you attack an innocent person, you will remove God's protection. So I'm warning you, karma's on its way. And if you continue on, I warned that author, Cato, that she was blaspheming God. She had told Chris Watts she was right, and his family, that they were writing a book about his salvation. But instead, she didn't tell the truth. She changed it to true crime. That's blaspheming God. That's using God. And look what happened to her. They pulled the book, and I told her before the books go for sale, they're going to be pulled off the shelf because you blaspheming God. And I made a video of it, but I took it down. I don't know, maybe it's still up. But anyway, and then her grandson was killed. So I don't know. That's kind of weird. That's spooky. That's scary. But if you don't straighten up and you continue on hurting and harming someone who does good for children, who helps innocent and those with disabilities, and you bring harm, you dishonor yourself and you remove God's protection. And that's what karma is. So I don't want to be negative, but pretty is as pretty does. And I think that when you misbehave like that and snarling and angry and always upset, reminds me of a bulldog that's just angry all the time. And then the next week, they're mad at this person. They can't see it. And I don't care how pretty they think they are. They're not pretty. They're ugly on the inside. And pretty is as pretty does. Thank you for saying. Would you like to hear that song, Love One Another? I'll go play it. Hold on. You can stick around, but that's the end of the live. I might come back and yap for a minute. Ugh. Oh. Buggers, you gonna help Mama play the piano? Oh, I had spinal surgery and it failed. Ooh, it's like a hobble. My friend Pam played this. So this is Pam. She played it. Oh. Just a second. Uh, um, well, I can't find it. That's my friend playing the piano. I have an incredible piano, and it has a player system in, and it records what I play or whatever anybody plays. But this is Be Thou My Vision. And it was a dear friend's favorite song, Tara Stockholm. She was an elder in our church. She died of brain cancer. She said that was her favorite song because God was her vision. Bye-bye. Thank you for stopping by.